Have you finished Cold Harbor?
No.
And she's still alive.
What's going on, guys? Matthew back again, this time for another TV review. Today I'm going to be reviewing Severance Season 2, Episode 10, the finale, titled Cold Harbor. Let's get into it. This episode is directed by Ben Stiller and written by Dan Erickson, who is also the show's creator. We begin right where we left off with Mark, Devin, and Cobell at that cabin. And we pretty much have to do exactly what we thought we were going to have to do, which is that Mark and Mark are going to have a conversation. We just didn't know how that was going to go, but we'll get to that in just a second. We then cut back to Helly and James Egan, where we also left off from last episode. And we see that they're on the severed floor, and he reveals that he does not love his daughter Helena. He says that Helly has Kier in her, which would have to mean that Helly is basically a younger version of Helena. Helly is Helena without all the experience of having to live as an Egan. So what that would mean to me is that Helly is basically what Helena would be had she just grown up in a normal family, just had, normal experiences like normal people, and not be raised like a robot like we saw at the beginning of episode 9, where she was eating eggs in a strange way and basically being treated like a robot. We then cut back to Mark, Cobell, and Devin at that cabin. And Mark's concerned about all the innies because they basically reveal that if he does what they want him to do, which is to save Gemma, then all the innies are going to be dead because Lumen goes down. If Lumen goes down, then there will be no innies left. And then Devin gives Mark a camera, and they have to have what I consider to be a very awesome exchange. I was wondering how they were going to talk to each other, and I thought that he was going to sit down with Cobell, and that they were going to do this cool camera shot, very similar to Smeagol and Gollum in Two Towers, where they were talking to each other, and Smeagol finally got Gollum to go away before he inevitably came back later. But instead, they give him a camera, and this worked out well, too. I thought this was very well done. The editing was very well done between their dialogue. I have to call out the editing there. I loved how they chose very carefully when they were going to cut away to Mark on the porch and Mark inside near the fire. And they did a really good job of cutting between the actual Audi or Mark talking, and then like mid-sentence it would cut to them on the camera being listened to by either the Innie or the Audi. One thing I noticed is that I believe it's the first response that Mark gives to Mark, where he's talking about his concerns for, no, it wasn't Helly, it was just his overall concerns of his well-being. And as soon as he stops recording, you see Mark's face drop as if it was a performance. He knows as well as we do that as soon as he gets his wife back, he's going to cancel all this. He's going to get the chip removed. Mark will be no more. And he doesn't really care about Mark. And I think we all can relate to that. Would you really care in this situation when all you want is your wife back? But Mark keeps making really good arguments. One is that, if we come together, if we reintegrate, it's really going to be more you, because I've only been alive for 2 years and you have like 20 times as much time as I have. But the Mark makes a very crucial mistake when he brings up Helly, especially by calling her the wrong name, which is, he called her Helene. And it's here that he was trying to help Mark relate to him by saying, like, wouldn't you hate it if you couldn't have Helly? But here out, Mark gets upset because he's like, well, one, you got her name wrong, and two, you don't really care because this is the first time we've ever talked. You didn't care about me until you needed me to do something for you. In my first watch of this episode, I didn't really like Mark in this exchange, but my second watch through, I really understood where he was coming from. And you can't really blame the Innie for not trusting him. I mean, the last time they really met in Audi, it was Helena, who kind of basically raped him in a way and tricked him into having sex with what he thought was Helly, but wasn't really Helly. We then go back to Mark, who they basically force him to talk to Cobell so that he'll have a better understanding of what's going on. And it's here that we all find out that it's woe, frolic, malice, and dread, which some people have been theorizing that's what they've been putting into those containers on the computers. But what I didn't know is that every time he's finished a case file, and he's finished 24 of them, every time he finishes one, he's created an entirely new personality for Gemma. So as far as we know, all of these characters, Dylan, Mark, Irv, and Helly, they only have two personalities. They're outie and they're innie. Gemma, by the end of this episode, now has 25 personalities. Innie Mark then gets upset and he leaves in anger and he says, basically, if you want Gemma to be alive, the next thing I better see is a severed floor, and that's exactly what happens. He wakes up on the, or he doesn't wake up, he comes to in the elevator in the severed floor. The door opens up and we see a very strange painting of Mark standing like this with his hand up and all the characters behind him. And basically what I took from this is that this painting is supposed to manipulate him into thinking that you're doing something grand, you're doing something great, when really they're just using him and they're going to dispose of him whenever he finishes this, last 4% of this Cold Harbor case file. He then runs into Helly, who gives him a hug. And at this moment, I was wondering, is this Helly or Helena? And after watching it twice, I do believe this is Helly. I could be wrong about that. We could find out next season that it was Helena just manipulated him. But I got the sense that it was Helly. I could be wrong, though. They go into the office where they normally work, and there is a very weird robot of Kier holding a letter that was sent from Milchek. And for whatever reason, when they open it, it's a waffle and a fork and a knife. I don't know what that means. This show has a tendency to do a lot of weird stuff like that. Maybe it'll mean something in the future, but right now I have no idea. We then see Milchek for the first time, and he goes to the elevator where Dylan arrives, Innie Dylan, and he's upset because he thinks that his Audi decided not to quit, and Milchek tells him to follow him. And from there, we go back to Gemma, where she's introduced to her outfit that she was wearing when she last saw Outie Mark and when they were last together before her supposed car wreck. We then go back to Mark and Helly, who are in the office, and they're discussing what happens to Gemma after they extract the chip from her head, and basically Gemma's going to die. I didn't really understand this part of the episode. Maybe you guys can help me out in the comments below. But I didn't understand why they would run the risk of finishing the file if that means Gemma dying. Why wouldn't you just leave it at 96% and just go straight to the elevator, unless they knew that they wouldn't be able to access it? But their plan for some reason is to finish the file, put Gemma's life at risk, and then take the opportunity to go and find her. Help me out in the comments below why this was the better option. I didn't really understand it. We go back to Milchek and Dylan, who he has Dylan sit down, and he hands him a letter from his Audi. And it's at this point that Milchek says, I'm kind of busy, and just darts out of there really fast. I'm not sure why this show decides to do these like randomly funny things. I kind of like it. It's kind of charming about the show, but at some point they got to tell us why these people act so strange, especially Milchek. But I'll get into that, a theory I have in a little bit. Innie Dylan reads the letter from his Audi, and it's really here that I really began to like Audi Dylan. He starts off by saying, like, screw you, that's my wife, you shouldn't kiss her. But then he starts being real and kind of responsible and tells him, he's like, hey, listen, I've realized I kind of need to be more like you. I clearly, my wife likes you more, and you're a part of me. So I'm going to work on trying to be more like you. But while I do that, I think you should enjoy your life. And maybe the Audi will let him see his wife some more. I don't know, but I really did like that. It cuts to Audi Dylan, who's writing the letter, and you see him putting his tie on, kissing his wife, starting to be a little more responsible and not so down about everything, because it's always our option to have a positive attitude or not. We cut back to Mark and Helly, where Mark is finishing the file, and it's here that music starts to be played and a voice starts to come out of the robot of Kier. And I'm wondering if this is James Egan. I'm not sure who this is speaking through the robot. To me, it sounded like James Egan, but at the same time, it seems like James Egan has some kind of mental problem, like he's not all there. So I'm not really sure who it was. But they introduce Milchek. He arrives, and then him and Kier insult one another. And it's here that I got the impression, and maybe I'm reaching here, let me know in the comments if you disagree or agree, that it seemed like Milchek is kind of representative of the black people that try to fit in with the upper class, liberal white people. And again, I could be reaching, but that's kind of the feeling I got from this is when Kier randomly interrupts Milchek for no reason and assaults him. And I was happy to see Milchek kind of tag him back by saying the robot's 5 inches taller than Kier Egan ever was. And it's also here that Milchek introduces the band, which is another odd choice. This place has a band full of people who all have chips in their head. For what reason? Like, why are they there? Are they only there to play music for people that just finished a file who are about to be killed? If they're about to be killed, why do they need a band to play for them? I didn't really understand that at all. But it's here that Haley distracts Milchek by stealing his radio, take it to the bathroom so that Mark can leave with that note that Irv left. We then cut to the large Drummond, who heads across from the dark hallway to what appears to be a secret room that's been there the whole time. And we'll definitely see more of that secret room later. But then we cut back to Gemma, who is approaching the Cold Harbor room, which would be her 25th and final personality. We then see that also approaching that secret room is the large lady played by Gwendolyn Christie, and she's pushing a cart that has a small goat in it. And we're going to see what happens to that goat in just a minute. Then we see that Dylan pushes a machine in front of the bathroom door just in time to keep Milchek from escaping, because obviously Haley wouldn't have been able to hold that door for very long. I'm surprised she held it for as long as she did, but Dylan comes in the clutch with the machine just in time. And we're cutting back and forth at a rapid pace here between Gemma entering the room, the Cold Harbor room, where she sees a crib, and she's asked if she knows who she is, and she doesn't. So far the chip is working successfully. She now has 25 different personalities in her own head, which is insane. We go back to the large lady who enters the secret room with her goat, and it's here that Drummond says the goat is to be entombed with the spirit of a cherished woman. Now, when he said all this and he grabbed that gun, I thought they were about to put a chip in this goat's head that had the personality of somebody, and they were going to put the personality of somebody in this goat. I don't know, but apparently it just had a bullet in it, so they were just going to sacrifice a goat. I don't know what that does physically, or if it's just like a spiritual thing. I don't really understand. I hope we get more information on that next season. Then we go back to Gemma, where she's ordered to take this crib apart, and in an effort to see if she feels any kind of pain over the loss of her child. We then come back to Mark, who has found the door that leads to the dark hallway, but he does not have any kind of key card to access it. So he starts kicking it, jumping up and down on it, and which Drummond, who's right there, obviously, in the other room, hears it, and he exits. And it's here that Mark tries to walk away, and Drummond grabs him and then just punches him in the face, which I thought was a really great-looking punch. I really like to look into how they did that. I've always seen some good punches, but that was a really good fake punch. But obviously they have no use for Mark anymore, so it's okay to kill him. I wonder why. It seemed like Drummond had been waiting for this day, and I wonder if it's because it was Drummond's responsibility to have Mark there to finish the case file originally when he was trying to blame it on Milchek, and Milchek threw it back in his face. This might have been episode 9, I'm not sure. But Milchek throws it back in his face and says, no, it's actually your responsibility to make sure what Mark is doing outside of work. And maybe Drummond was taking that frustration out on Mark and just beating the crap out of him. But you see, like we've seen before, he has the word frolic on his hand, and he's choking Mark to death. And it made me wonder, is this what frolic is for Drummond? Does Drummond love violence? Does he like to kill people? Is this his frolic? But it's at this last second when he's about to kill Mark that the large lady interrupts with that gun and sticks it to his neck. He knocks it away. They start fighting. More great punches. There's one really great punch that Drummond throws on her, and I love it. I don't know how realistic it is when somebody punches somebody in the mouth and blood just flies out, but it's very graphic, to say the least, and I actually like that a lot. It feels like kind of an explosion that this show kind of needed and deserved in this finale for season 2. We haven't seen a lot of violence. The only other violence we've seen is that guy getting hit over the head with a baseball bat in season 1 by the black chick. But other than that, we haven't really seen a lot of violence. I don't really count the surgery stuff, but boy, this was really bloody and really violent. We come back to Gemma to see them testing on her, and they're talking about how the barrier has not been breached and she's not feeling any pain from her memories, and they're very happy with that what they deem to be a success in being able to show a woman who had a miscarriage a baby crib and her dismantling it, which would be, extremely painful for any woman. But for her not to feel any pain would mean that the chip is very successful and that she has 25 different successful personalities in her head, which must be some kind of record or something for this company. And their plan is to, after this success, to kill Gemma, extract the chip, and use it for further research, I guess. Who knows what they want these chips for, if they want to just be able to install them in people and then use them as like agents to go assassinate people in other countries, or really anything you could do with these. We then go back to Mark, who is holding Drummond at gunpoint with that strange gun. And he thanks the large lady. She thanks him back. And him and Drummond head down the elevator. And he tells him, I'm about to turn into my Audi. And when I do that, you need to listen to me. And he's interrupted by the transformation. And it's so funny because when he transforms, he accidentally pulls the trigger, killing Drummond instantly. I was very happy to see him die. He was a very, very awful person, but he was a great villain. Kind of wish he was around for next season, but maybe they'll find another character to replace him with. But he dies very violently and just falls on the floor and dies. We then follow Audi Mark through these hallways before he runs into that strange woman that's been with Gemma this whole time. And I have to point out how loyal she is. He's holding a gun at her and just screaming at her. And meanwhile, she's just saying no, 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 and almost at one point daring him to shoot her. Very loyal, very indoctrinated, clearly. And she runs off to go find who I call the dentist. And it's here that Mark uses Drummond's blood from his tie to enter the room. And once he enters, he sees Gemma for the very first time since before she died in that car accident. And he's able to convince her to hold his hand and follow him out. And the dentist and James Egan are extremely frustrated by this. And at one point, it was very funny when James Egan just started saying the F word, which was actually the first time he seemed to be all there in the head. But once Gemma leaves that room, her and Mark finally meet for the first time since before her car accident, and they hug and they start running because now the dentist and that strange lady are after them. They leave and enter the elevator, and then they change personalities again into Annie Mark and Miss Casey, and neither one of them have any feelings for each other. Milchek is finally able to bust out of the bathroom, but it's unfortunate for him because now Dylan has convinced all of the band members to work with him, and Dylan basically just says, "Screw you, Mr. Milchek," and that's the last time we see Dylan for this. It's the last time we see Dylan and Milchek for this season. So next season we're going to see. Have they killed Milchek? Do they just have him tied up? Is it just going to be an absolute revolution inside Lumen? But then we go back to Gemma and Mark, where Annie, Mark, and Gemma are running for the exit, which we've seen before. We've seen it last season when Haley was going in and out with her and Helena. And they reach the door. He convinces Gemma to leave. And once she does, she becomes normal Gemma again, and she's crying and screaming for him to come outside. And it's at this point that Haley conveniently shows up, and he has to choose between Haley and Gemma. And he makes the choice that we all thought he would. Annie Mark is obviously going to choose Haley in this situation. They run off, and we get a freeze frame with the music playing, and then it ends, leaving us in a situation where now it's Gemma, Devin, and Cobell who are going to have to work together to find a way to get Audi Mark back. So they've now completely switched, where it was Audi Mark trying to get Gemma out. Now Gemma has to get Audi Mark out. And we also have to figure out what's going on with Dylan. And now we're in a real conundrum because Annie and Audi Mark really don't like each other. How do you solve this? It's like Cobell told Annie Mark, there is no happy ending for you and Haley. Like, there's no way it's going to happen. You can't, unless they find a way to clone Mark and then put that personality in that body, which to me would, I don't know, you'd have to, a lot of this stuff would have to be explained to be cloning for that to work. But we'll see where this goes in the future. But guys, I thought this season was great. It's not very often that season 2s are better than season 1, but I really did think this season was absolutely better than the first season. The only problem I had was episode 8 with Cobell and seeing her background. It wasn't a bad episode. I just didn't find it as interesting as any other episode in not only this season, but the entire series. But I still think this season was better than the first season. I really enjoyed it a lot. But anyway, guys, that's my review for this episode. I enjoyed it very much. Let me know in the comments below if there's anything I missed. Also, let me know if there's anything that you agree with me on, disagree with me on. Please hit that like button, subscribe, and we'll catch you guys next time. Take it easy.